So I think we're going to try to get started here. Hope everybody's enjoying their beers. Welcome to the folks online as well. So welcome to the education series with Eastern Sierra Avalanche Center. Just brewery asked if you guys end up milling around and whatnot, just try to mask up if you're not at your table drinking beer. Appreciate that. And just want to put a plug in for the Avalanche Center. We've got a new website this year, so if you haven't checked it out, be sure to get on there. It's much user friendly. It's easier to use on your phone as well, so check it out and kind of get to learn it, especially with all this snow we're getting. So really, everybody I know is really stoked about the good start we've had now after the lull in November. Also as well, Rachel's over here selling some ESAC t-shirts and whatnot. So we are a nonprofit center. So we derive all of our income and funding to operate the center. It's a nonprofit, so through donors and people that generously give a little cash. So appreciate that too. So thanks a lot for coming tonight. My name's Chris Engelhardt. I'm one of the Avalanche forecasters here. There's three of us, and we try to forecast avalanche hazard from all the way up by Virginia Lakes, Mono Lake, all the way down to Bishop Creek along the Eastern Sierra. So it's a huge forecast zone, you know, and essentially when we have a good winter, the snow can reach all the way down to 6,000 feet elevation probably. And as we know, we got the big mountains in California go up to 14,000 foot. So it's a huge relief. It's some of the greatest relief, topographical relief in the entire world. If you think about it, you think the Palisades, 14,000 feet, goes down to Owens Valley, 5,000 feet. You're looking at almost 10,000 feet of vertical relief. So huge piece. So this presentation tonight, it's kind of kicking off the season. A lot of it's for folks that maybe are just interested in getting into backcountry riding, snow machining, or skiing. But also there's a lot of tidbits in here and kind of stuff that I've learned throughout my career that I take to heart, and just good to learn about. So just a little background on me. I started patrolling at Mammoth Mountain, and it goes out to Mammoth Mountain Patrol. They've been doing a great job getting the mountain ready, getting open. So really props to the patrol. Love those folks up there. So they're doing an awesome work. So anyways, I worked at Mammoth. I also did a long stint at Silverton Mountain guiding and patrolling. I was snow safety director there, as well as some work in Alaska heli guiding. And so I put a bunch of stuff in here. I'm not as much of a scientist as Steve and Josh are. But I have a lot of operational experience in guiding, patrolling, and snow safety work, both in maritime, coastal snowpacks, as well as continental, and up in Alaska, which is more maritime. So this is Basin Mountain. Nice little 6-inch day, and it's a good day to hit it, skiing over the Owens Valley. So I gave this presentation last year. I'll try to maybe throw a little more in, like maybe a few war stories and stuff. If you guys saw it last year, maybe a little bit different. So, and I can't advance. As I said, I'm not a technical. Here we go. No. So, you know, backcountry skiing, right? It's not the ski area. There is no green in the backcountry. It's super dynamic, right? It can change during the day while you're out there, day to day, week to week, month to month. It's rarely consistent, and natural terrain is generally never uniform. When you do find it that it's uniform, you can link a bunch of turns together all in the same snow. It's really good, right? So what do we deal with here on the east side? A lot of wind, right? This is up on Dunderberg Peak. So, you know, breakable crust, firm wind affected surfaces. in the spring and even midwinter, those warming periods, corn. And then probably most people's favorite, seen a bunch of this lately. This is up at Crater Lake, actually, some of the deepest walls of snow I've ever seen. So I'm just trying to emphasize that the dynamic nature of backcountry skiing. So if you're getting into it, or maybe you have some experience and you want to take some folks out, or a partner that wants to get into it, you know, it's really good to start out mellow. You know, you don't need to go charging right away, and start inconsequential terrain, you know, terrain that isn't going to get you avalanche wise. And maybe staying close to home in case people are struggling, or you have some issues. You're not way deep out there trying to get into a remote spot right away. It helps you build up to steeper terrain. And also a really good thing with riding in the backcountry is to try to find somebody that you're really matched up well with, maybe you identify with, you trust, and try to learn from them. That's, you know, I took avalanche courses when I was young and whatnot, but I really learned the most from going out with folks that have been doing it for a long time and really showed me what's up. And it's also, you know, people that you have fun with, right? And you trust, you know, I gotta say, it's different than skiing at the ski area. It's really good to find people that you really identify with and can align with, so you can take care of people out there. When you're out there, you can communicate well with them, right? So to go along with that, you know, touring is a whole different animal, and practice makes perfect. You know, if you're just getting into it or getting people into it, practicing in non-avalanche terrain, and it's not just skiing down, it's a lot about the uphill, right? Like getting your kick turning refined so you know how to do it, right? You know, what if you're dealing with more of an icy skin track rather than right now, softer snow? It's pretty easy to skin up. You get on a hard, icy skin track and you're not used to it. Also, too, right, in the winter environment, in the winter we have much shorter days. So learning how to transition efficiently, meaning like when you get to the top of skinning up, like getting your stuff put together, getting into downhill mode, knowing where your goggles are, having your whole kit put together, because it's just good to be efficient with that, right? Have you ever been on the hill or anywhere and just people that don't have their shit together, so to speak? You know, like you just want to be efficient, right? So the more time you can spend skinning and skiing, the more skiing you're going to get in, or riding or snow machining, rather than dealing with your gear. So honestly, you know, with backcountry skiing, 90% of the day is going up. So the better you can get it going up, being good at skidding, putting in a good skin track, or reading avalanche terrain, the more skiing you're going to get. Or snowboarding, snow machining. And also, too, you know, it's a lot different. You don't have Mammoth Mountain Ski Patrol or Gene Mountain Ski Patrol there backing up to the ski area. Even if you have your Garmin device now, you're in reach. Swift rescue, can you imagine trying to get rescued a couple of days ago in 5 feet of snow, or even right now? Nothing's going to happen quickly, so don't count on it. It's not guaranteed. It's not only difficult and dangerous for you, but it's really risky for the rescuers to try to come and get you. You know, if you're out there sending an SOS or get hurt because you weren't prepared, you're not only endangering yourself, but you know, a lot of other folks. The great thing about developed ski areas in relation to backcountry skiing or riding is it's a great place to test out your equipment and refine your riding skills, and really get a lot of time in, you know, refining your skiing, your snowboarding. So when you get out in the backcountry, you can handle those variable conditions, right? You're not just going to go out there and ski corduroy, but you're going to maybe be a breakable crust, you're going to be in deep powder, like I said, all those different conditions. So the more you can refine your skills and get more comfortable with skiing all types of terrain, where you can do it in an area where patrol mitigates the hazards, they mitigate the avalanche danger, so you can practice skiing on all that steep terrain that in the backcountry is more hazardous. you can be more confident, right? And well-versed when you do get out in the real thing. So I know economically it can be expensive to have a ski pass or whatnot, but I can't emphasize more how good it is to put some time in on the hill. So, you know, a large part of it, it's not just learning all those skills physically, but it's planning, navigation. You should really have a plan before you go out every time. And then once you get out there, you need to be ready to adjust, right? You always have to be ready to adjust. You might have that objective. We want to ski bloody couloir today. I've been wanting to nail that thing all season. But what if it's blowing wind, it's cross-loading, it's loading this new snow, it's building up snow, wind slab, and you notice it? Are you still gonna go for it, right? Everybody's probably read and seen the stuff about the 96 Everest disaster, right? You need to know when to turn around, you need to know when to adjust. As well, knowing how to use the equipment when it comes to GPS, navigation, hard maps, right? I can't emphasize more about getting an early start because we have short days right now, right? If you're starting at 10, you have that much less time to like really get it done and do it safely. What if somebody's binding breaks? What if you're having trouble with one of your skins and it gets iced up and you lose a skin? If you're starting early in the day, you have more time to take care of those things and maybe still get up the hill and get a lap in, where if you start late, you're screwed. So planning multiple options to adjust to the changing conditions or hazards, you know, don't just go out with that one objective, but always have multiple ideas of maybe what you could do and choose terrain where you could have multiple options to change direction if need to. And I put here slow down to be fast, you know. Getting an early start lets you go slower and think about stuff, to communicate, not to be rushing. And I hate to say it, but in the backcountry, in some of these like high use areas, in certain like South Lake Tahoe, North Lake here, there's certain spots, right, that's easily accessible, that everybody knows about, and there's a lot of people going up there, right? And unfortunately, there's kind of sometimes that competition. What does competition do to folks? It makes you rush, right? Just like on the hill on a powder day, you want to get to that run first. It kind of happens in the backcountry, unfortunately, sometimes too. And it's not a good thing for safe decision making, right? So get an early start. So changing conditions, timing's key, you know. Check the weather and the avalanche forecast every night before you're going to go. That'll help you develop that plan. And you should check it in the morning again. You know, today the weather was supposed to kind of let up around noon. What did it do all day up here? It snowed and blew all day long. It didn't do what the weather service said. You know, timing's key because it helps you hit your conditions in the optimal fashion, and also lets you realize if the avalanche hazard is increasing, you know. So this is a really important thing, is just knowing your group, you know. So if you're going out with folks maybe you don't know as much, or whoever you're with, you know, what's going to be the best day for your crew, right? Maybe it's just not you and your trusted partner you go with always and you really are in tune, but maybe you're going with some other folks you haven't gone with that much. You know, like thinking about what's going to be the best day for your group, you know, and that's where you're going to go, what terrain, how long are you going to go, what, you know, and, you know, always having fun, that it's going to be good for the group, you know, keeping a positive atmosphere. Or you know, let the guide factor take you out. When I was a young guide, it was like I was taking people where I wanted to ski, and it wasn't necessarily always where it was good for them to go riding, and that brought me into some bad situations. Who has done that with their friends? You need to realize that. Are you taking the group just where you want to go? Are you trying to help them out, or are you just controlling the situation because you want to get that line that's been on your tick list? The day is just, especially when you're with a group, is not just all about you, right? I hate to say it, but you know, backcountry riding, skiing, snow machines, pretty equipment intensive. I'm still refining my kit every year. What works a little bit better here? What works a little bit better there? You know, and that regards to clothing, avalanche equipment, you know, making sure you have your shit together before you get out there. It also means maintaining it, you know, like who skied with their goggles and a powder like today, just kept them in their backpack or in their truck and then didn't dry them out during the night, and then you go back skiing the next day and they fog up right away when you put them on. Well, I've done it, but and also too, like skins, waxing, it really is. The better you have your equipment prepared and taken care of, the better your day is going to be out there. I went out yesterday and I got a bunch of ice on my skis because I didn't have much wax on there, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit because it slowed down my ski run. You know, I wasn't quite prepared, you know, matching the kit to the environment. Are you in Colorado where it's bitter cold all the time? Are you here? Are you here in December or in April? You know, changing your stuff and keeping it all. I keep all my stuff on one table, all my avalanche equipment, all my clothes, all my skins, so I can look at all of it and I put it back in the same place every time. So I don't forget anything, and I can pick and choose every day when I go out what's the proper equipment for that day. And I never put it in different spots where I'll forget it. I keep it all on one table in the garage all season long. So part of being prepared in the backcountry is the number one thing is always having an insulated jacket. What does this help do if somebody gets hurt? Or if you end up getting stuck out there, you break a binding, you break something, you're stuck out. It's been pretty cold lately. You have something to keep you warm. And a lightweight insulated jacket is pretty much, I even bring it in the spring. What if you get hurt in the end of the day and it gets dark and you don't have anything to keep you warm? Pretty key thing in regards to a wool hat, a headlamp, right? You had an unforeseen circumstance, you need to get out at dark, having a headlamp. Always bring an extra pair of gloves. Anybody have a glove blow away on a ridgeline? Then you don't have a glove. What if you can't use your hands? It's a bad thing if you can't use your hands because they get so cold, so you can buckle your boots or zip up your jacket. Always bring an extra pair of gloves. I always have a little fire starting kit with me too, just in case it really goes south. I'm prepared. So I kind of threw this in there as just a little monkey wrench. But has anybody traveled in Montana or Alaska? Yeah. So has anybody traveled in grizzly terrain? So those that have, would you purposely go seek out mama bear? We're all pretty aware of what a mama grizzly bear would do if she came into close contact with you, right? So why I bring this up is because when we're going backcountry skiing, and most people are trying to go backcountry skiing in 35 to 37 degree terrain, which is the most fun to ski. It's a nice steep angle, right? That's where slab avalanches happen the most, and we purposely go out there and seek that grizzly bear lurking out there to go have fun. So we're intentionally seeking something risky when we're backcountry riding. So the key thing about this is managing your exposure in avalanche country. And if you're not well acquainted, you know, really what is avalanche terrain? I put this picture in here from Crested Butte area. You guys can really see how those avalanche paths have blown out all the trees below, right? That is major avalanche country. It's really more well-defined actually in the Rockies than it can be in California, this year, Nevada. So really figuring out and learning that, once again, mentorship is really good if you're not really well acquainted. Because most backcountry objectives are an avalanche terrain. That nice steeper terrain is where we want to ride. And I put this quote in here, when in unknown country. That's a firefighter term. When you're on a firefighting crew, a lot of times you can be from Idaho. They throw you down in Arizona. You've never been there. It's a red flag. I've never been here before. I've never skied this before. I need to kind of learn what's going on before I just jump right into it, right? So red flag, you know, if you're just getting into some new place, a new zone you've never been to, let me take some time to figure it out before I just jump right into it. So the common sense of learning avalanche terrain is really key, and you know, having that foundation, then putting together the more science stuff, the intricate stuff, learning about snow and taking a course or learning from somebody that you trust, that you go out there and have some experience. And then, you know, also, you know, reading up, getting a little book smart. I have some books at the end of the presentation that all of us have read. And so, you know, to go along with that stuff, you know, you try to learn avalanche terrain, get to learn snow, but there's some fundamental protocols that throughout my personal and professional career is things you just always do. You always carry a beacon, shovel, and probe, right? You should really always try to ski with a partner, because it doesn't matter if you have all that avalanche equipment if you get buried and you're by yourself. There's nobody to help you. If you're on snow machines, you really should always ride with two machines, because you can get way out there deep, right, on the snow machine. And if it breaks down, you don't have anybody to help pull you out or ride out, double out, you could be pretty screwed. My wife gave me this one, you know, leave a trip plan, you know. You should always leave a trip plan with somebody else, you know, so they know where you were in case you don't show up. If somebody has an idea, then you send somebody out. It's a good idea. And, you know, just always be prepared with your, you know, your previous knowledge, your trip planning, and your equipment before you go out there. And it's round trip awareness, being aware. This is in Silverton here, Colorado, San Juan's. Being just aware, hyper aware, looking at everything. As you're going up, as you're going down. If you're with some folks, which you should be, you should try to always maintain visual contact with everybody. Don't drop Johnny because he's way back there filling with stuff. You need to stay together and don't get separated. You know, and if you're in complex terrain and avalanche terrain, you should stop and discuss things at critical decision points. Just don't be that guide factor, just blazing ahead and just making all the calls without any other input from the rest of the group. So with uphill travel, you know, always make sure you check your transceivers at the trailhead. Has everybody got them? Does everybody have them turned on? Are they on to, you know, they're beeping, the lights are going on? As you're going up, we're talking about avalanche terrain. Are you identifying suspect slopes, paths? And are you trying to minimize your exposure? This is in the San Juans in Colorado too. You can see the big avalanche paths running off the alpine environment, right? You think you want to go right up one of those paths? Or say you're in the timber and you want to cross one. Probably better to cross one at a time, right? That only expose one person at a time across that avalanche path and all just blazing across at the same time. You know, when you're in more complex terrain and there's decision points to be made, I need to go up this little pitch, I need to go up this little slope, both up and down. I'm going to stop and regroup the group so we can all first maintain visual contact. You all be on the same page of where we're skiing up or down so we know what's going on. You know, when you're heading up, this is in regards to, you know, managing avalanche terrain, you know, apex of ridges, staying in heavy timber trees. I mean, this is a wide space trees like in California a lot of times, but heavier timber, and staying out of terrain traps. You'll probably read that in avalanche forecast a lot of terrain traps. That's like gullies, ravines, maybe below a big hanging slope that's hanging over a cliff, right? Anywhere if like even a small slide could bury you or something. So every year people actually even get buried just in road cuts. They'll jump off a road cut and like a 20-foot slope will bury them at the bottom of it. So once again, being hyper aware. So maintaining space. I mean, you can't always avoid being exposed to it, but you can minimize it, right? Recognizing avalanche activity. It's a big red flag, right? Is there slides currently happening or have happened in the past? You know? And ultimately knowing when it's not appropriate to travel at all. Probably a couple days during this big, huge storm. One of those days it's just better to go and stay at home and make some soup. Wax your skis and get stoked for when it starts stabilizing and gets better to go out. You don't have to always go out. You know, you need to be able to quell that desire, which can be very hard. Trust me, I know. You've gotten up there, you're ready to ride, you're ready to ski down. You should try to, when I say transition, I mean, that means when you're going from uphill mode to downhill mode. Find a good spot. Not only that you're like safe from avalanches from above, but a spot that everybody can get ready comfortably. You're out of the wind. You can get your stuff together comfortably. You can communicate. It's not howling 80 miles an hour. Get some shelter so people can get their stuff together. Their gloves won't blow away. You can communicate. You can figure out what's going on and get comfortable. Don't just go up to the most exposed spot. And if you know you want to ski from an exposed spot, maybe get kind of semi-prepared and ready in a better shelter spot before you need to go to that exposed drop in the morning. So once you do get ready, you should visually inspect and discuss the run together so you're all on the same page and confirm on where you're going to agree on regrouping. You're going to ski down to an anchor point and regroup there. Always double check the transceivers that they are sending. Once again, everybody on the same page? You're confirming your plan. I mean, when I'm up there usually, is everybody ready to shred? Everybody's 100% ready, right? Not the leaders not dropping in with somebody still screwing around with their boots. Everybody ready to shred? Sweet. All right. Another term, SFD, straight down. But yeah, so, you know, making sure everybody's ready. You know, you're geared up. Everybody's ready like these folks are. They're watching the folks below. So if anything happens, the ski pops off, they fall, avalanche happens, they saw where it happened, they saw what happened. Making sure you're watching everybody, and that's not just from the top down, but when you get down to the end of the pitch, you're watching your partners come down to you. Once again, in case something odd happens, you know what happened. And you're in position to react. If you ski down or ride down, you're not just standing all like stuck up against a rock, but you're getting somewhere where if somebody gets in a slide, you can get out in the slope and find them when it's safe to do so, and quickly. Part of this is also utilizing radios and, you know, never drop it in on your partner until you confirm with them. That can be a visual thing, waving your pole. Hey, when you get down there, you're good to go. Wave your pole and I'll come down then. Got radios, use the radios. You know, sometimes the snow can be seen pretty benevolent and not much going on with it avalanche-wise, but it's always just good to keep it one at a time. It limits the exposure. It reduces the weight on the slope, and it always allows for a rescue because if you're just one person on the slope, hopefully there's somebody below or something that can watch and saw what happened, or somebody at the top can get you. If you always do it, you decrease those chances, those acts of God. I've been told, you know, like, oh, that'll never happen. That's like an act of God, you know. And I think some of us in patrol, we've seen full mogul slopes go to the ground on avalanches before, like just stuff you'd never imagine. A lot of patroller accidents I've heard about, you know, when they threw a shot. I never thought it would break that far above me. Multiple times in multiple places I've heard that thing. So if you try to minimize those acts of God by always going one at a time, always anchoring up in a good spot, you're going to minimize maybe those freak occurrences. Snow is super dynamic. I don't think anybody could ever totally know it, you know? So anchor up where you can maintain visuals. When I say anchor up, that means like, so you're skiing this avalanche path one at a time, and you're anchoring up all at one spot so you can regroup, so you can maintain visuals, and then keep going down the run, right? So what are good anchor spots? Huge rock outcrops, mature timber that don't have any damage, where they're all the branches are totally ripped off from avalanches. High points, ridges out of the avalanche pass. And also, you know, obviously enough room for your whole party that people aren't exposed. Being patient. Like one war story, friends are outside Kicking Horse in BC, group of 6. The last guy, he just couldn't wait to drop in, and there was still a guy on slope, and when the guy on top dropped in, set off a slide, the powder cloud was so forceful, the avalanche was so big, it threw his partner down into the trees, and it wasn't a good outcome, because he didn't wait. So it's always good just to let people get anchored up and set. They can watch you, you know, have some patience before you go in. And I'm not trying to paint all gloom and doom. Tree skiing, not all tree skiing is a safety net. Don't just think it is. I mean, as you can see in this picture, these trees are pretty widely spaced. And then also deep snow immersion, something to consider. When we have these huge Sierra dumps, the tree wells around the trees you can go super deep into them. If you lawn dart into them, it is really difficult to get out. I mean, it is really difficult to get out. So it's a really good thing to consider when you're skiing the trees, especially with like conditions we have right now. It can be really dangerous to fall in one of those pits. The snowmobiles, like I said earlier, they can get you out there further and quicker. And but you know, it's kind of similar travel protocols to skiing, kind of one at a time, watching each other, good communication, and just realizing that a snowmobile has a lot heavier weight, right, than a person does when on slope. It's always good to travel with 2 people. Put this slide up here, stepping it up, because like once I said, you know, we have this super huge topography here. A lot of times in the east side, it's so big, you're going up the bottom, you can't even see what's above you. So did I take some photos before I got on this line? Did I do some research? Do I know what's above me? You know, am I exposed to some unknown hazards? And what's the timing like? Is the wind starting to really pick up above us, and I'm not going to be able to see what's coming down at us? Constantly observing, reevaluating, and adjusting as you go up, you know, in case it doesn't feel right. And, you know, it just kind of comes down to some big picture thinking, you know, like your risk versus reward. What is the reward? Is it really worth the risk of going super deep on that day? And then, you know, also picking apart the big terrain, and, you know, don't just always think about this one huge panel, this one huge face, but putting it into you know, smaller pieces so it's manageable. You know, how remote are you? So I just bring to every mountain range is unique, because it is. Because you could be in Rogers Pass like this, where the climate, the snow is different. Also, the way people ski up there is different, and the way they react to things and think about things. The local regulations might be different too. For example, the whole Canadian highway up there, the railroad, they close all huge zones of it. You have to check in every day before you go out in the field there to see what's open and what's not, because they're doing avalanche control throughout that whole highway corridor. And if you're not checking in, you can be getting, you know, shot by military artillery. So, you know, knowing the local regs, just put that in there. And then I just put this in there because, like, with the icon pass, all this stuff, it gives you the opportunity to travel around, right? So it's a great idea to track the other local avalanche centers in different areas, so you know what the snow is doing in Montana, what's it doing in Jackson Hole, what's it doing in Canada. So you can, like you track ESAC, you can track one of the avalanche centers up there, so you kind of have a good history of what's going on before you go on that trip in February or March. So we all do mistakes, and you know, it's a great learning experience and debriefing from them and sharing your story. We all of us that have done it a while have made plenty of mistakes, have made maybe decisions that weren't right at the time that we had close calls with. And really, some of those things are the best things you can share with the folks you care about, and even openly in public, so we can all learn, you know, like kind of what happened, what decisions took place to get maybe, you know, into a bad situation. So before, you know, if there's any questions, I just wanted to just do a brief thing about what's going on with the snow right now. I know it's been kind of long, but oops. Had a slide of some books and stuff. I don't know if I made it on here, but a bunch of books out there. One of the best ones that has what it's in there. It's called The 10 Commandments of Backcountry Skiing. It's in Staying Alive in Avalanche Train by Bruce Pepper, and it's a good read to just read what some of those folks in Utah that really deal with a lot of avalanche activity year after year after year and experience have to say about stuff like that. So Avalanche Handbook as well is a great one that's more science-based, but also the Avalanche Review that's published by the American Avalanche Association, and one of our board members actually does all the graphics for it. The Avalanche Review by the American Avalanche Association is like a quarterly publication that has everything avalanche related, science to all kinds of stuff good to learn from. So in regards to snow, we got dumped on, it's great. The thing we're most worried about a little bit right now, of course, is the wind blowing it around and forming wind slabs adjacent to ridgeline. And in all those areas, convexities, cliff bands, gullies, where it likes to build up snow when the wind deposits it. These southwest winds will be loading the northerly and easterly aspect slopes that are facing north and east. But also too, what do we get? We got a pretty good storm in October, right? And a pretty decent one early November. Then all that snow just sat there for literally a month and sort of rotted out, maybe 1 to 2 feet in areas. And essentially what happens is you get bigger crystals with less bonding, and it just becomes really weak, and it's like hollow and rotten, almost like sugary snow. Now in a lot of places where it didn't avalanche naturally during the big storm at the beginning of the week, we have a big 4-foot slab, meter slab, 5-foot slab, depending on where you are, on top of this weak, rotten snow. And it's just sitting there waiting to equalize, right? Over time, where it didn't slide, it probably will heal over time. But right now, it could be sensitive to anything. Another small avalanche sliding on it, or maybe even a skier or a snowmobiler riding on it and being the trigger. That's what Josh and I have been concerned about the last few days. Similar situation happened last year. We got the huge storm in January 27th. Big fat storm on top of snow that had been sitting all winter till the end of January. So it's kind of a little bit of a similar setup. So that's kind of what we're just trying to give you guys a heads up on that. So there, we have a bit of that going on, and in particular, that situation, that condition is going on in the shore winds and probably a little bit of like June and whatnot, popular areas where people like to ride. So we're just going to have to track it and see what's going on. Doesn't mean the world's falling down. I didn't mean to give this presentation and it's all doomsday. You got to prepare for the worst, like hell is going to come. But there's kind of a lot more to think about when you go into the backcountry and, you know, being prepared really before you get out there. And as we go on through the season the next few months, Josh and Steve are kind of going to get into maybe more of the science and avalanche phenomena stuff in these sessions. So this was kind of just like the basics, backcountry basics like we started out with. So I don't know, thanks for listening to me draw along here, but appreciate you guys all coming, and if you got any questions, I'll try to answer them to the best I can. Otherwise, enjoy the beer, enjoy the new snow, and stay safe out there. Oh, questions on the chat. Mike, can you help me? So I'll answer the first question here. Hey, can you guys please give tips for going out alone with my dog on short local areas? Maybe explain which local areas are better at different times. I don't have any people to go with. Well, if you have a little dog, you probably shouldn't be going out right now. I have a little Karen Terrier, and Ferris he'd just be buried right now. No, but dogs, you know, actually the way the snow is right now, pretty difficult because it's so deep. But I always like to try stick close to home because a lot of dogs can struggle in the deeper snow and really get buried. I'll really get exhausted and also can get you into trouble. You know, locally here, I mean, I stick to more of the kind of groomed stuff by Shady Rest and maybe the public community stuff up by Tamarack. That's all. So. Anybody else? Yeah, I'm sorry that didn't get in there. Staying Alive in Avalanche Train by Bruce Tremper is a great one. One that's more science-based, though, but it gives you all the fundamentals of avalanche formation, everything like the long-standing Bible. It's just called the Avalanche Handbook by McClung. No Sense by Jill Fredston and Dave Fessler. Up in Alaska, they're up there for a long time. It's a really good, just meat and potatoes book as well. But the Avalanche Review, if you become a member of the American Avalanche Association, that publication is really good. And it's an ongoing current discussion of everything science, operational based, as well as a lot of the human factor stuff that go along with, you know, traveling an avalanche train. That's a great publication. Matt McKenzie does an awesome job putting the graphics together with it. Got any suggestions, Mike? Cool. Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.